Hi there, gentle people. Thank you for joining me for another video. We are talking about paper today, and specifically paper for watercolors. A lot of people tend to be intimidated by watercolor because it does what it pretty much wants to do on the paper. If you learn certain techniques and strategies though, you can manage it a lot better, and a crucial part of that is the kind of paper that you're using. Watercolor is wet media, so you have to use it on paper that can withstand all that water. And we're going to talk about the different types of paper, different brands that are out there, some of my favorite brands, the ones that I dig. All right, so let's get into it. For people who are just starting out with watercolor, you don't need to go to the very pricey, expensive paper. You can kind of get like a low or mid-range paper when you're just starting out. One of the ones I would recommend for that is Canson watercolor paper, and the brand is, well, the range is called XL, and this is what you call cold press paper. So it's kind of hard to tell, but the surface, right, is a little bit rough, and it has very good texture when you're using watercolor. So it's not smooth, but it's ideal. A lot of watercolor artists, well, practically if you use anything with watercolor, a lot of artists use cold press paper. This one is actually 140 pounds, and it's a little bit complex in terms of, you know, explaining the different weights of the paper. The heavier the weight is though, is a better quality of paper. So if you're starting out, you can try out the Canson XL watercolor paper, cold press, 140 pounds, and it's acid free, so you don't have to worry about it deteriorating. So there you go, Canson XL. So that's a good one if you're just starting out. Another one which I wasn't too hot to trot for this one, it's from the Pacon Corporation, and it's artist watercolor paper. It's good for wet techniques and mixed media, but this one was actually 90 pounds, so it's a little more fragile in terms of holding water, and it's student grade. A lot of times you can tell the difference between student grade and professional grade. They'll usually put it on there for you. This is also acid free as well, but I don't really like this one too much because it's only 90 pounds, so it's very, it's thin. It doesn't hold up to as much water as some of the more expensive brands. The good thing about this Pacon paper though is that it's sustainable. So they have this whole sustainable initiative, this company, and you know, if you're just starting out and you don't need anything too complex, then you can definitely try the Pacon. And again, it's also good for mixed media, so not just watercolor. Let me see. All right, this one, Master's Touch, is also cold press as well, and I'm not too sure if it's exclusive to Hobby Lobby, but that's where I got this one. And all these different watercolor pads come in different shapes and sizes. This one is the 8x8. It's very thick, right? And it's cold press, 140 pounds. This one is pretty cool too. It will show a lot of texture when you're using watercolor, and this one is a good starter one too. It's $3.49, and if you have a coupon for Hobby Lobby, that's 40% off. All right, I want to talk to you about Strathmore. I love Strathmore papers, and they come in a wide range. And when you go to the store, what you'll see is some of them will say 200 series and 300 series, 400 series. It's basically good, better, best. It goes up in quality as the numbers go up. And I don't have the Strathmore 300 series watercolor paper here to show you, but I do have the Bristol. Bristol is awesome if you're using markers, but if you're not doing too many washes with watercolor, you can actually use the watercolor on the Bristol paper, and it will give you more of a hot press feel. And the difference between hot press and cold press water paper, the ones that I showed you before, the cold press have a lot of texture to it. Hot press is smooth, like your paint will go over it like butter on toast pretty much. So you can also use the Bristol to do some watercolor if you're not laying down too much wash and too much water. And this is the 300 series, the yellow. So again, as the numbers go up, the quality goes up. So it's, you know, basically good, better, best Bristol, but you can also get the watercolor. All right. Oh, let me show you the other Strathmore. This is the 400 series. So obviously 3 to 4, the numbers go up. So the quality on this one is better. This is one of my favorite watercolor papers to use. It is a very high quality and it's not too pricey, and you can get them with the ring binding on the top where you can kind of flip it. But I like to buy them like this because I can just pretty much tear them out when I need them, because I don't work in the pad. I actually rip the paper out when I use it. And this one is also cold press, 140 pounds, and it's very heavyweight. When I do watercolor, I tend to put a lot of water on the paper, and you don't want something that's going to buckle up too much. One of the things that you can do when you're using watercolor is you can stretch your paper before you actually start to apply your paint, and I'll show you guys that technique in another video, how to stretch watercolor paper. But you don't have to. You can just pretty much, you know, open up your pad and start working. So this is a Strathmore 400 series, better quality. This one is one of my absolute favorites. Another, okay, so now we're going into the hoity-toity pricey ones, and this is the Fabriano. I love Fabriano paper, it's so nice. And this one is hot press. So I've been showing you the cold press paper before that had all this texture. The hot press paper is smooth. It feels like Bristol actually. There is no texture on it. So if you're putting down some light designs, some light painting with your watercolor, definitely the hot press is an option. If you don't want like a lot of texture in your paintings, definitely try out the Fabriano watercolor hot press. And this is also 140 pound paper as well. So very, very good quality. Fabriano puts out really good stuff, but this is more on the high end range. And you can get these at like Jerry's, Artarama, and Dick Blick. I've never, the Fabriano stuff you don't really see in like Michael's and Hobby Lobby, because this is kind of when you're getting more serious. So if you are putting out some prints, or you know, if you want to sell your original artwork, I would definitely go with something like the Fabriano, because it's a better quality. All right. And then top of the line, this is some good stuff right here, people. This is Arches watercolor paper. It's from France. It is 140 pound. It is cold press watercolor paper, and it is 100% pure cotton. When you do watercolors on this, this is, if you know, you're definitely, you know, selling yourself. This is not for idle work, all right, because it is very pricey. Joann's Fabrics has actually started to carry the Arches watercolor paper. So if you have a coupon, definitely use it, because you can get 50% off. You can also get Arches in Michael's and Hobby Lobby, as well as AC Moore. So any one of your craft stores, you can get Arches, but like I said, it's very expensive. So if you're selling your artwork, you want something archival, definitely go with the Arches. And let me show you, oh, it's a little painting I was working on of the Dalai Lama, so that's just my little outline. So I kind of had that tucked in there. All right, so let's talk about how the Arches comes. You can, yeah, one sec. I won't even cut that out, people, because this is real life. I told you I'm a klutz, right? So you have to bear with me. So this is the watercolor block. And a lot of times when people see the watercolor block, they're like, what on earth is that? How does that work? Is it just one block of paper? And it's actually, let me tell you how many sheets are in this. This one is actually 20 sheets of paper, but they've already stretched the paper for you in the block. So once you start laying water down on here, once you start laying that wet media, pretty much the paper is going to stay. It's not going to buckle, because what you'll notice, especially when you put down a lot of water, when you use your watercolor, is that the paint will start to make the paper buckle. The paper will just start to get really crumply. The watercolor block is already stretched for you, and mine kind of started to break here, but that's okay. When you want to separate your paper, you look for this little section right here, and you can put a knife in there, and basically the paper will separate like that, and you just take off the one that you just used. So that is how the blocks work. The paper has already been stretched for you, so you don't have to worry about the paper buckling while you're putting down your wet media, your watercolor. Again, this is Arches from France, very hoity-toity paper, but I love it. It's like top of the line, 100% cotton, best of the best. So again, just very quickly, you have the Arches. Arches comes in cold press and hot press as well. All of these companies that do watercolor paper have the two different kinds. And remember, cold press for texture, hot press if you just want it smooth and clean. So we have the Arches and the Fabriano, which are more top of the line. You have the Strathmore ones that are like a little bit more mid-range and affordable. And then the ones that are less expensive include the Master's Touch and the Pack-On and the Canson. So if you're starting out, definitely go with these and you see which one you like. Some people like to work on cold press, some people like to work on hot press. It just depends on your personal preference and the kind of paintings that you're doing. As you can tell, I love them all. If I just want to like throw some stuff out there and you know I'm just working on some warm-up and practice stuff, I'll use the papers that are a lot less expensive. And then I know if I wanted something official, then you know I reach for my Arches or you know my Fabriano. So I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions at all, definitely put them in the comments box below. If you like the video and you haven't subscribed yet, what you waiting on? I want you to be here, all right? I have a lot more to share with you. So thank you very much for joining me. As usual, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your presence. Stay tuned for more videos and I will talk to you soon. Peace.